everyone, with our second Throne and Liberty dungeon guide. Today's dungeon is Butcher's Canyon, and consider staying and subscribing for more Throne and Liberty guides. If you have a shield and a sword build, it is the perfect dungeon to have it, because this dungeon is full of bridges, so if you're a tank, sword and shield is perfect here. You can throw a lot of mobs off the bridges to make it easier. There are two notable encounters before the last boss, and both of them are pretty easy. One is the Elder. He will spawn more mobs, and the shapeshifters might become a problem here because he can summon more than 2-3 of them at the same time, and each of them will transform someone to sheep. And if you can burst the Elder fast enough, go for it. If not, focus on the shapeshifters and then the Elder. And this is the second notable encounter before the boss. These are Shadowmancers, and they have a tether between them, as you can see. You can only get rid of this tether by CCing them at the same time, both of them at the same time, or else they basically take no damage. And don't forget that this game, among all other RNGs, also has CC chance RNG, so your CC might fail even if you use it. Keep trying. For mages, freeze is a good choice here. Honestly, in this dungeon, the sheep transformation is the biggest problem because you occasionally lose someone to it. The shapeshifter mob causes the transformation. Proper way to deal with this mechanic is that when you kill this shapeshifter mob, it spawns a blue AoE, and the transformed player needs to walk in that blue AoE to dispel the spell. Now let's talk about Duke Magna's mechanics. First important mechanic is fire rings. Duke Magna pulls everyone to the center and summons flame rings. This mechanic happens couple times during the fight, and the less HP boss has, the more area the fire rings will occupy. So it gets more difficult. And in some of these fire ring phases, one person will get snared in the middle, but we will come to that. Here, you just jump over these rings and get out of the area. You gotta make a wide jump because the hitbox of these rings is a little bit iffy, not gonna lie. It takes getting used to. And the stone circle is the area that will be affected from the explosion. I mean the one boss is standing on. And out of this area you will be safe. And if you're safe outside this boss area, what about the pillars? Some of these pillars, I know you noticed, will glow red during the firing phase, and I don't know if you noticed or if it happened to you, but one player gets snared and is unable to leave the middle during this phase. This snare doesn't happen each time there's a firing. I'm a bit reluctant to mention percentages here when it comes to mechanics with the fire ring and the snare, because I think it kind of depends on how much DPS your group has and how fast you're melting the boss, but snare does not happen all the time. When you deactivate these red glowing pillars, the player who got snared will be released, so that's a way to save that player, and that's what the pillars are for. And DPS cannot tank this mechanic, so you gotta save your friend. And about the sheep mechanic during the boss. So to dispel the sheep form, you need to kill the shapeshifter mobs and then dispel it on the blue AoE, as you know. During the boss, sheep transformation becomes an extra issue though, because you're unable to jump when you're a sheep, and if other players kill the shapeshifter mob too fast, the blue AoE will disappear until you dispel it. So what to do? If a player is transformed into a sheep within the fire rings and can't jump, other players will step into the ticking red AoE to take the mechanic onto themselves, and you carry the transformation to the dispel area by repeating this. Simultaneously, your group should be focusing on defeating the shapeshifter and time these two. One of the other mechanics of this boss is Meteor. The ground will shine, and before the meteor drops, speaking from experience, if you have a squishy build and if you have under 2k item level, you will probably die to this mechanic, but it is easy to just move out of. Another mechanic is Axe Sweep, which you can block as soon as you hear this. Another mechanic is Stomp, and you can just jump over this one. And before we're done, there is this one more mechanic tip I want to talk about, which is this purple-ish magic attack whatever. This happens when someone is too far from the boss and the boss focuses that player who is standing far away. If you have a tank and if they can keep the taunt and get the focus of the boss, you basically won't even deal with this mechanic as a DPS. I didn't know at the time, but if you're at the last few percentages and your tank died, if you get to the melee range of the boss, it would give you a chance to kill this boss, because boss won't do this mechanic in the melee range, and even if you get this mechanic in the melee range, you can kite this I-beam by just moving around the boss. So this is it. This is the whole dungeon. Thank you for staying up until now. This is my thing. I make brief and on-point guides, and I'll make more Tron and Liberty guides, so stay and be part of my community. See you on the next guide.